Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Miracle Network's Wednesday meditation gathering. I'm so glad you're all here together to share this time. This week we have Andreas Prohl, who will lead us in meditation, and then we have 20 minutes of silence. After that, we'll open it up for sharing, and we end at 10:45. Over to you, Andreas.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for showing up in, thoughts from out of time. And I chose a section that I would like to read, or a paragraph that I want to share with you as a blueprint for the meditation, to really remember that Jesus basically has been there all the time. The Christ has been there all the time, and he's with us now as always. And in that paragraph, he basically refers to us meeting personally. And I just enjoy that quality of that memory, because it's a present memory. We might remember something we experienced 2000 years ago, in a timeline. But to me, he conveys also that all of our human aspects, all of our human experiences are included in this great awakening. So, we don't need to coax ourselves into the Christ consciousness, but we can just, go with where we are right now and let ourselves be picked up right at the spot where we believe ourselves to be. So this is from chapter 19, section 4, subchapter A, and then paragraph 16. It's the obstacles to peace. And he says, well, basically, guilt always asks you to feed it, to feed the guilt, to bring the witnesses to guilt, and to try to fill the thirst of guilt, and that will never happen. And yet, and this is our blueprint for our meditation, love too would set a feast before you on a table covered with a spotless cloth, set in a quiet garden where no sound but singing and a softly joyous whispering is ever heard. This is a feast that honors your holy relationship, and at which everyone is welcomed as an honored guest. And in a holy instant, grace is said by everyone together, as they join in gentleness before the table of communion. And I will join you there, says Jesus. I will join you there. As long ago I promised, and promise still. For in your new relationship, I am made welcome. And where I am made welcome, there I am. And so this is an open invitation to see that this is our present, holy, new relationship, and that he is welcome. And let's take this into the meditation. Thank you.
Open your eyes slowly and come back into the room. We have 20 minutes left for sharing your reflections and your questions. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand or use the reactions button at the bottom of the screen, and I'll invite you to take yourself off of mute. And if you'd like to ask Andreas a question with confidentiality, put your message in the chat function at the bottom of the screen, and I'll read it out. Catherine, take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Andreas. I'm trying to find you on the screen. I love "The Lord is my shepherd" psalm, and I love the line, "My table you have furnished in presence of my foes." So this put me very much in mind of that. And I thought, what I love is it's not an either or. So I've had moments where I have felt very much in the presence of my foes. If you take my foes to be an experience of lack, not having enough to eat, for example, or being on the receiving end of judgments or feeling judgments, and have fallen through in some of those moments into, oh my goodness, my table is furnished. So yeah, that's just sharing what it put me in mind of. And also you gave me a great gift, because I looked up the passage, and the passage after it is very, very meaningful to me at the moment, and I didn't know it well, so thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, awesome. I love that Lord's Prayer as well, because he says I'm trying to translate it from German to English, in the presence of my enemies, you anoint my head with oil. And basically what we did here is that inner transformation, like seeing the world as my enemy, or seeing enemies out there, and injustice and lack and everything. So this is where we start off at. And with the little willingness to join with him, I allow him to transform my mind. And whereas I saw enemies, or where I saw enemies before, all of a sudden I see friends, and the conflict in my mind ceases because I allowed it to happen. So this is basically what he does. This is what grace is doing with our old condition, to basically dissolve it and to show there is, instead of a fragmented world and a fragmented perception based on conflict, there is a whole alternative, and it's good. You anoint my head with oil.
My cup overflows.
My cup overflows, yeah.
Yeah, and just to add a piece that is relevant to me in case it's relevant to someone else, I think my upbringing, which was very positive as a Catholic Christian, was kind of to see nobody as my enemy. And when I thought, oh, these things are my enemies, these are my temptation to be content with littleness that the Course talks about, that sort of helped me, because then it was like, oh, okay, if those are my enemies, I let go of the ego self that wants to be beyond seeing anything as my enemy. That actually enables me more to rest in the place where my table is furnished and my cup overflows. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Catherine.
Who'd like to share?
I mean, all of this is really something that is experienced as something very existential, you know, because our perception of ourselves and this world cannot stay. And sometimes the motivation is simply, there must be another way. You know, I'm so full of conflict. I see my situation as basically unsolvable. It's the impossible situation again. And I feel and I see and I understand that I cannot solve it. And sometimes this is, you know, our starting point. It doesn't have to be. But the motivation to go all the way through the veil of fear and of guilt is necessary. It's necessary not to buy into any of those images and any of those old lessons or judgments, and to become more honest with myself. What am I actually seeing there? You know, in my old human conditioning, I say I just see things as they are, you know, like this is a bad guy, this is the good guy, injustice is happening. But who is making these images? It's me, you know, and even if it feels very familiar, it's still an attack on myself. And this is where I have to become more fine-tuned with myself and on the images that I produce, so that this change can happen.
Anthony, take yourself off mute.
Yes, thank you, Andreas, and thank you, Catherine, because I was thinking of Psalm 23 as well. My thoughts were, who are my enemies? But I was more focused on the symbol of a feast. I would would set a feast before you on a table covered with a spotless cloth. And during the meditation, I kept thinking of food and the idea of sharing a meal with Jesus, or in fact, sharing a meal with all one's brothers, because sharing a meal is very symbolic of a kind of communion. It's something very personal, but something that you do with somebody. And you only sit down at a table with people you're comfortable with. And it's a wonderful invitation. And I just love the symbolism there. And that's my take on it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for highlighting that again, you know, like we were not even invited to transformation. We were invited to a feast, a feast of love. Thank you so much.
Maybe it's because I hadn't had breakfast yet. So
maybe, yeah.
Kirsty, would you like to share?
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, thanks, Andreas. What you were just saying then about, you know, when you find yourself in a conflict that you really can't resolve, and so you have to realize that these are all your own images that you're producing. When you were really going through these, whatever they are, you know, these rings of guilt and fire, whatever, did you find that your ego was putting up a you know, more and more of a fight? I mean, that's what I'm finding at the moment. The more I kind of determine to you know, to remember the truth in everything, the more my ego wants to focus on anger and hatred and all, you know. And I just find when I set an intention to, then I just find the ego is very, 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 very fearful and resistant. I don't know if you've got any experience of that or any help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, the intention won't work, because an intention says, okay, I just put it out there and then I watch and see. But the forgiveness process is very active. You basically invited yourself in, Kirsty, to teach yourself, because you set the goal And then you feel how, all the defense mechanisms come up, and it's very fierce, but there's no fight going on in reality. There's not even, like, it's because sometimes it feels like I have to, wrestle with the ego to gain ground in my mind again, and that can't be forgiveness. Like there's no fight between me and the ego going on. It's not a question like who's going out as the winner here. It's basically seeing like I am putting up the fight, so I can let it also go. There's only one will, so there's no second no second authority or second thing that this one will can be in conflict with. So this is basically like, you see how this is active, it's an active reflection in my mind rather than a wish. It is discovering, oh my God, I'm brushed against the grain, like I want to go against his will, but there's no other will. So I always have to call myself back that the conflict isn't real. It's not caused and it has no effects. So it's very active, like I know these phases, of course, I think everyone does. But it's just one little extra effort to stay vigilant and to use the tools and the reason that we were given and that we are constantly being reminded of. And then it won't take so long. It won't take so long until the mind changes. And it takes as long as it takes. So no, no pressure.
Celia, would you like to take yourself off mute?
Yes, thank you, Andreas. I loved the feast. My experience was that we sat down to meditate, and my husband immediately started playing Bach on the piano downstairs, which is beautiful because I love to hear him play. And I thought, oh wow, this is part of my feast. And my normal way of coping with sound, if it comes in from outside when I'm meditating, is to sort of expand my consciousness and allow it all to just be there. So my table got bigger and bigger, and there was a tremendous sense of love and enjoyment just flowing through everything. So it was a very beautiful experience, but not like a meditation I've ever had before. It was much more, seemed to be much more present in the world. But that was beautiful, and I enjoyed that as well. So thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, and there's some of us are speaking, some of us are listening. And everyone has a different experience and a different reflection. So this is not an invitation to compare yourself, basically. It's an invitation to, join with whoever is present on your screen right now, like it's a brother, and you can use everyone individually to join with, either it brings up hindrances and grievances and so on, and you have another opportunity to free your mind from that. Or you find sparks of inspiration, like, okay, I'm going to join with this. I'm going to join with this, expand myself. I'm going to use this as an instruction to flow with my brother here. So, and then it becomes a candy shop. It's not a Zoom meeting anymore. It's like it becomes really yummy. Thank you so much for sharing, Celia.
Okay, Norman, would you like to share?
Yes, thank you, Andreas, for mentioning that. Mine was a bit, excuse me, rather personal, and the word disparage came into my mind, and I thought, disparage, I wonder what that means. I'll just have to wait to the end of the meditation and then look it up. And then I had a memory of a great big hole along beside a railway, and it was filled with dark water. And the surroundings were quite nice. There were trees and you play in and that sort of thing. But it was all filled up with water, black. And there was great sort of legends as to why it was there and how it got there. And they were all very, very fearful. And I was along that way not so long ago, and it had been filled in. So it wasn't as deep as people thought. And there were wee trees growing on it, and it, you know, that big deep hole had been transferred into a nice place where you could sort of walk and enjoy. And when I looked up disparage, it just says, excuse me, bring discredit on, speak slightingly of, disparate, marry unequally, equality of rank. And so I got the impression then I was wishing peace, joy and happiness to everyone, but leaving myself out. And of course that won't do. So I must have been doing that because I had experience wishing joy, abundant peace and joy in everybody. But I had left myself out. And that's why I couldn't feel it. So thank you very much.
No. Wonderful insight. Yeah, that's why this course is so practical, because he always points us to where the block or where the, you know, where the dark spot is, so we can shine it away with our light. And all of a sudden it just becomes really true that it doesn't take a lot. It just takes a little willingness for a real change to happen. You know, in that, was it barrage, or what did you say? Barrage.
Disparage.
Disparage.
The meaning was inequality in marriage.
Ah, okay.
Different levels.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so in that inequality, it doesn't look like it's easy, you know, it looks like a big block. But with him, it really is it's just a speck. It's really just a speck. But, you know, from a non-existent perspective, it looks like the entire world, and it's overwhelming. Thank you. Thank you for that change.
Who'd like to share? Sue, take yourself off mute.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thank you very much, Andreas. That was really, really helpful for me. And particularly in view of what you and Norman have just been saying, the whole meditation for me became about inequality, because we were all in a garden with the feast and Jesus showed up and it was, oh, wow, here's Jesus, wow. And then it was like, hang on, why do I have this? He is a brother, he's the elder brother, but we're all the children of God in the same way that he is. And if I put Jesus on a pedestal, I'm saying I can't join him and we can't join him because everybody, you know, he's up there, we're all here. And then I got an even deeper lesson because yesterday something really hurtful happened and I made it bigger because it was the action of a course teacher that I respect a lot. And so, you know, I'd like put them really, how could they do this? They're a course teacher. And, you know, it was just a whole, it's going to really help me work on what happened yesterday, because I realized that I'm introducing levels that I can judge and I'm adding layers and layers. I could just deal with the thing that happened. And I think that because of the images that I got out of the meditation, I will feel it easier to de-escalate. And it's just been, I'm struggling to say, but it's just been really, really helpful. And I wanted to thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. Good to see you too.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed Saturday.
Yeah, all good. You were with us. Yeah, it's, sometimes it's just little steps to, to even question whether my perspective is even right, and that might already be a big step towards sanity. And of course, this will bring forth further reflections and further insights into, my own mind, into what I'm actually doing. And since it's Jesus that we're talking about, he won't let us off the hook until we are really done through, so to say, until we're really through the layer. And this is also my encouragement. And I think everyone knows the feeling that I know when I'm not quite through yet. When I'm honest, I know. Sometimes I wish, like, yeah, I think it's good now. It's not so intense anymore. I think I'm good, but I'm not good. I'm still like chewing on an old bone somewhere in the back of my mind, and protecting it like a dog who has found some special gift or something. Here's my old bone again. I can chew on. I feel whole and complete again in my old self-image. But there's more. There's more to discover. There's more to unpack in a positive sense, in the sense of liberating myself, in the sense of being a savior, and really letting the whole thing completely go, so that I don't find it anymore. I don't find what I was chewing on for so long. And that's always a good indicator that, oh yeah, I think, where is it? What was going on? I can't quite remember. Yeah, there was something with person XYZ, but I can't find it anymore. It's gone. So, and this is really, our celebration that we're having here. This is not a little thing. This is basically the holiest spot on earth. So, thank you for each contribution to that, to everyone.
Okay, we've come to the end of our time together. Thank you, Andreas, for that beautiful feast. And thank you, everyone, for joining in the feast. And take yourself off of mute and show your appreciation to Andreas.
Thank you, Andreas.
Andreas, brilliant. Thank you so much. Miracle Network.
Wonderful.
Really helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Andreas.
Thank you.